this weekend at lightweight. Thiago Moises looking to get back on a roll and back in the rankings, or at least rankings adjacent. The odds would suggest that people are trying to see the forest among the trees. He's taking on the Spartan, Christos Giagos. And for Giagos, a couple of things. A, Cody Stamen did the nickname good last weekend, beating Eddie Wineland. But two, go to his Instagram right now because he doesn't look anything like the picture that we have next to us. He shaved his head. He's got a beard. Like, nobody's going to recognize him. What do you think he's going to walk out to, Mac? Christos Giagos.
Hot Boy Summer? I don't know.
I was thinking like some Yanni or something. Really throw people for a groove. Yanni, great mustache. Great hair.
Just not his like face up there. I have Christos Giagos as my parlay piece.
I don't know anything about that, but I was talking about the guy. You know, he's really making the music, making the grooves. But the fight like this, Matt, for Thiago Moises, I mean, he's on a 2-fight losing streak, albeit to good fighter. Like good fighter being Islam Makhachev in a main event. He stood no chance. In his last fight against Joel Alvarez, what the hell happened?
Joel Alvarez is pretty good. And he also had like a 15-pound weight advantage in that fight, which does help out a little bit, especially on the feet. This fight's weird, though, because, like, Joel Alvarez is probably really fired up to watch this one, and then he's going to walk way far away from the main event because he never wants to witness either one of those men ever again. Like, there's one fight where we can prop Alvarez up on, and then there's another fight where we're going to use Alvarez a lot as a measuring stick for the other guys. This fight should be interesting because Giagos and Moises have been around enough against the higher levels of competition in this division to where we do have a pretty good idea with what they're both good at. Giagos struggles with his cardio. I think we all know that at this stage of his career, but it's not necessarily just him having bad cardio. He does have a very high level of volume in the early goings of fights, be it with his wrestling or his striking, so you do expect him to tire down as the fight goes on. He's just never really been able to pace himself to the best degree. It's a lot of, hey, Giagos won the first 2 rounds, let's really hope he can survive this third one.
The only weird kind of anomaly, and we touched on it, the fact that Shayilan Nuerdanbieke beat Sean Soriano, so now Shayilan trains the end of his camp at Sanford MMA. Christos Giagos goes out there, fights a hard pace against Sean Soriano round 1, loses it. Round 2 comes out, submits him. Now Christos Giagos also trains at Sanford MMA full-time with Sean Soriano. Sean Soriano, punching bag for the trainers.
I completely forget where I was. I think Christos Giagos is going to have some success early on in this fight. Just with his ability to overwhelm with his own striking. Because Thiago Moises, he is an odd fighter. Like, he's very good, but there's still some areas he's great in. There's some areas he's very weak in. Defensively, he does have that deer in headlights ability to where if you do blitz him, you can have a lot of success early on. Again, Joel Alvarez isn't known as the greatest striker of all time, but when he was able to start moving forward on Moises, you could tell that there was just a certain level of just uncomfortableness on the feet for Moises, and I do worry about anybody else in the top 10 fighting him who's a good striker, because at lightweight, yes, grapplers might be at the top of the division, but everybody's extremely well-rounded, and nobody really has that many weaknesses in the top 15 of this division, so it is going to be really hard for either one of these guys to make their way to the top, just being these one-note fighters that they have been.
I have such a hard time with this fight, and I know people are going to go, okay, Moises used to be ranked, Giagos doesn't pace himself, Moises is a favorite, I'm picking Moises. I went back and watched tape on this. I looked at everything I could. So for Moises, comes in off Dana White's Contender Series, which is a red flag these days. I mean, he had a lot of success over with LFA. Did Moises. He's been a long-time ATT guy. He's been there for about a decade now, and he's still only 27. So that really lends credence to the level of training partner, the level of guys you're going to get to have inside the cage with you. But you look at it. Lose to Beneil Dariush. Forgivable in a UFC debut unless you're Alexander Hernandez, who got the win, and Moises beat Hernandez. You look at it, he beats Kurt Hollabaugh, loses to Damir Ismagulov. Okay, these things make sense. Beats Michael Johnson after losing the first round to him, which was a weird fight. Beats Bobby Green, but that fight was really, really close with people on either side of it. Beats Alexander Hernandez, that was early last year. So now Moises in the rankings. He gets Islam Makhachev, which was silly. It was kind of
But the problem is, Arman Tsarukyan in his UFC debut had a pretty good fight with Islam Makhachev, and the fact that Thiago Moises was able to build himself up to a main event slot against him, I expected a lot more out of Moises, especially because Makhachev isn't the dominant grappler that Khabib is. I think everybody needs to realize that. Like, there's guys out there who can grapple with Makhachev a little bit. The difference is he has strength and cardio that are pretty much unmatched. Like, that's sort of what the Khabib school of wrestling is known for. Yes, technically they're very good, but they outpace you. They put a pace on you that most people can't keep up with, and that's what happened to Moises. Like, early on in that fight, he was kind of grappling with Makhachev. He was being sound defensively, but it just got to a point where the Makhachev avalanche was too much, and Moises, he just couldn't keep on swimming and keeping his head above water.
Now, the good thing for Moises in a fight like this is, okay, you can do that with Makhachev for a round, 2 rounds, 3 rounds. You get finished in the 4th round. Christos Giagos is not a 4-round fighter. He's not a 5-round fighter. Like, if you look at it, even Giagos in his fight against Carlton Maness, he's winning. Now it's getting close. Like, now Maness can defend the takedowns or at least keep Giagos on his back to where he's getting back up to his feet. And Carlton Maness had a bad run in the UFC. Like, we were sold an Alaskan bill of goods that was not delivered on. But when we do look at this one, honestly, I do have a hard time with it because for Moises, I have this idea of him in my mind's eye that when I go back and I watch the tape study, when Moises fights mean, like when he fought against Alexander Hernandez, when he's gritting his teeth against his mouth guard, when he looks like he's got a dip in, like this guy's a bad MFer. But when Thiago Moises is struggling in the in-betweens or he's getting pressured and he doesn't have anything to dish back out, he struggles, and Giagos is going to bring that fire and that pressure. So looking at the odds, Moises open to -300 favorite, -272 right now. Giagos open to +250, +195, so the odds going slightly in the favor of Giagos. We're going to have a look at the Tapology votes, Matt. I anticipate the fans overwhelmingly have Thiago Moises. I'm going to say over under 85% Moises.
I'll say under, but I think it's like 80.
It's over. So 600 total votes, 92% Moises, 57% by decision, 32% by submission. For the 8% that have Giagos, 53% by decision, 33% by knockout. It doesn't surprise me, the fan vote there, but the odds kind of do surprise me. So what's your take here?
I like Moises, and I don't disagree with the odds if I'm being completely honest, because Moises to me is a younger version of Christos Giagos with a higher potential to get a finish. He's a little bit cleaner with his jiu-jitsu on the mat. He has slightly better cardio. I would say much better cardio, if we're being honest. On the feet, I do worry about Giagos maybe banking a round, maybe even 2 rounds, just with his volume, because that's the thing about Giagos. Nothing he does has a ton of power behind it, but he still throws fairly hard, I'd say. They're big looping shots. They get a big reaction in the crowd.
Good jab on him, too.
Decent jab. But again, the problem is it does fall apart as the fight goes late. If Giagos could just learn to fight like a more tired version of himself in the first round, he'd be better. But he does change his style up considerably in that 3rd round, to where it'll be a lot of backpedaling with his hands down, just really avoiding the fight more than trying to bank that last round and win. So I do like Moises in this one, but we do need to see a much better version than the guy who did fight Joel Alvarez his last time out.
I hate the volume out of a guy like Moises. When it's on the feet, like, yeah, when he cracks, when he's gritting his teeth, like, those are the best performances. I go back to that Hernandez fight one quite a bit, but when I do look at this one, Giagos, I could see him 100% winning the first round. 2nd round, let's see how this one goes. For Moises, he can build on some of these things, so I do like Moises ever so slightly. I find the line a little tricky, just like the Jinh Frey one against Vanessa Demopoulos. So both of us going with Brazil's Thiago Moises, but I got a lot of red flags going up in my head, Matt. We have some big fights left on this card. You've got Shavkat, Rakhmonov, Neil Magny. You've got Tsarukyan taking on, holy smokes, the former double champ with KSW, Mateusz Gamrot. Should be some great stuff. So keep it locked in with Fight Night picks. As we always say,
let's get into it.